So how many of you have seen Chak De? 99% of the people. I think it is a very great movie, and it tells a lot to us about project management, how things work in a real scenario, what all one has to go through while managing a project. So what is your take on that movie? What aspects of project management do you see in that movie? It inspires me a lot, and I've seen it at least 5 times. Guys, teamwork. Okay. Sorry? Planning. Okay. Leading the team. Okay. Motivating the team.
Mutual trust.
Mutual trust. Okay.
Strategy.
Strategy. Excellent.
Unorthodox ways.
Sorry?
Unorthodox ways.
Like?
Unorthodox ways.
I said like. Like what? In that particular movie, what were the unorthodox ways?
He was not managing the team like regular coaches do.
Mm-hmm.
He was many coaches think that women hockey team is only meant for nominal purpose.
Nominal. Okay.
He worked extra hard with them.
So I think that is not unorthodox. That is a typical coach's job to motivate his team and make sure that they give their best in their jobs. That is the work of a project manager, or in that case, it was the work of that coach to make sure that his team gets selected for the World Cup, at least qualify for playing there. So in simple words, so these would be the learning objectives. We'll define project management. We'll go through the project life cycle, key aspects of managing a project, scope creep, and we'll discuss some real life scenarios. So in that movie, going back to Chak De, it was very interesting to see when the higher management is not even allowing the women's team to play, how a project manager has or how the coach managed to keep the team together, make them give their best for the shot to the World Cup. So I'll come to a different example, which is from a totally different industry. It is from an IT firm, because I come from an IT background, though I do finance. So this picture shows us how the customer explained us the project. So when our sales manager went to the client and asked him his requirements, that is how the customer explained it, that he needs a 3-step ladder. How the sales manager or the project leader had understood is just a 1-step ladder. Now there's a lot of communication gap which you can see in this entire picture. The project analyst had designed it in a totally different way. It seems like a Chinese whisper. So client tells us something and the project leader explains it in a different fashion to the analyst, and the programmer writes a totally different code. The business consultant described it in a totally different fashion, and there was absolutely no documentation. So when you have to go back to your notes, how do you make sure that things have been happening in a right fashion? what operations installed. So there was no, there was absolutely no sync between what customer had explained and what the operations had installed. Well, the customer was billed in a very huge fashion. There was absolutely no support which was provided by the IT team, and what the customer really needed was a tire which is hung from a tree branch. So what I have acquired from Sapient is that you need to understand what a customer needs, and probably he is not the one who is an expert on the things which we are dealing with. So Sapient leads the TRM business, trading risk management, via its branch called Sapient Global Markets. So a lot of times companies or clients come to Sapient and say that we want a trading platform which gives us XYZ. But then with the kind of experience we have, what we tell them is probably this is fine, but you need something else. You need, sorry. And that is how you help the client to achieve its real target. So the real target in the mind of project manager should be to make sure that the client gets the best out of this entire project. In this overall scenario, probably he needs to do a lot of balancing. He would have to manage the time, the cost, and of course the most important thing is the quality of work. And that is how, in simple words, we would define project management. So project management means a lot of things are happening at once, and then you have to manage all those things in order to keep moving on and to make sure that your project finishes on time with proper quality. The cost factors have been taken into account, etc. Any questions so far? So for a project manager, these are the three things majorly which he juggles around with. So he has to keep in mind the time factor, the cost factor, and the scope of work. So at times the scope of work probably does not even, we don't even have those capabilities to perform that entire project. So once he starts analyzing the customer's need, what he needs to understand, does he have the capabilities, does he have the technical skills? So if you are from a technical background, you would know that there are different skill sets. So you probably need a Java technical guy to work on that project, but you just have a SAP guy working within your team. So the scope of work needs to be considered well in advance by a project manager. Cost factor, the most important probably for companies these days. With the kind of world economy we have right now, Europe going haphazard and everything is not in probably the best shape. So especially the multinational companies have to consider a lot for the cost factors. Time, of course, it is an imperative aspect of project management. You have to deliver things on time each time, and that is what project manager's job is, to juggle these three things so as to balance everything and quality is being maintained. What are your inputs? So everything from a project manager standpoint is you're investing your people, you're investing your time, you're investing your effort, equipments, your money, rupees, dollars, whatever, and the deliverables, which is the output. When you start analyzing a project, again I come back to that example from the IT industry. Unless your understanding of that project is not correct, you would not be able to reap the correct amount of result, the proper results. So you reap what you sow. And it is important for a project manager to do the right things at the right time, in the right way, with the right tools. So you have to identify what is correct for my project. The timelines have to be defined well in advance. What is the right way? Probably I need to, I need to plan that what if I design a website and then it just goes and the programmer has not been able to write those codes, and of course you have to use the right tools. So let's go through the project life cycle. So the foremost important thing is to define goals. If your goal is not set, you would not be able to reach where you want to, or where your client wants your project to be. So anyone can differentiate between goals and tasks. Sure.
So tasks are basically the short-term goals, we can say, and the goal is the ultimate aim of the, you can say, of the organization which the organization wants to achieve. Task is basically the ladder to achieve the long-term goals or the aim of the organization.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. So goal is probably a longer term, and tasks are defined into different sections, and you can say these are your small term or short term objectives. So when a project manager starts his project, he needs to identify the goal. What kind of website do I want to design for the client? What kind of trading platform do I want to design for the client, so as to make his customer experience better every time and each time. Then how to do that, how to reach that goal? He has to divide those tasks into different sections. First, he will probably decide on the phases. Probably he is going to divide the entire project into different phases. So first phase is designing, the second one is implementation, and the last one is probably giving support to the client. The other thing you have to, one project manager has to keep in mind is to identify resources. Does he have the right kind of potential? Does he have the right kind of people to support him in this particular project? The next thing he needs to take care is risk identification and contingency planning. So he has to identify what all risk does he need to take during the implementation of the project, and what if something goes wrong during the project? What if two people leave from the organization or from the project? They need to be moved to any other project. So what is contingency planning? Client is never going to listen to you that your two people have left the firm. they are not bothered about it. They are bothered about the project. And then a project manager has to create a schedule. By schedule, that he has to probably start his day with probably defining the task for each day, and then once he's done with his day, he needs to follow up what went well and what didn't, basically. The next point is the diligent execution and follow-ups. So whatever schedule he has decided upon, he has to diligently follow it. And if there are any hiccups, he needs to tackle those situations then and there, and his follow-up strategy has to be planned in advance. And post everything has been done, he has to assess his performance. End of the day, that is what matters. Whether you put in 10 people on a project or you put 8 people on a project with different skill sets, it's the performance which matters. It's the performance of the project which would matter. And that is how a project life cycle goes through. This is an interesting one. So how many of you have done small projects in your institutes? So where you started with a certain goal or an objective in your mind, and then something went wrong in that particular duration, or something which added to your time. So you started, let's say for this guest lecture, you started managing this guest lecture, and then somebody says कि boss ये काम भी कर दो. So that is an additional task which has been assigned to you. So how many of you have faced that kind of a situation during your projects? None? Or you guys have not done any projects? Then how come you have not? So you are all potential project managers, right? So how come you have not faced any such situation? And I'm sure every project has to go through that phase. Okay, fair enough. So basically, what is a scope creep? A gradual increase in scope of work adding to time and cost constraints to the project. So an excellent example which I was just talking to your DG, and he was talking about this entire thing, scope creep. So for building these huge flyovers in the country, or different other infrastructure things. So say a company called DLF starts with a project, and he reaches out to the government and says that we can build this flyover in say 2 years, and they need a conversion to land use. So it is now not being used for a government purpose, it would be used for a commercial purpose. And there are certain terms and conditions which they sign between the government and the DLF. Now during that entire duration, while they are planning to execute, there are a lot of things probably which would happen from a government's end. So they probably would not give you the sanctioned letters on time. So your project start date is say 1st of January, and till now you have not got any approvals so as to use to start your work. So it kind of adds to your time, and it adds to your cost constraints. So say after 6 months you got the approval to start the project, but by that time, as a company, as an organization, I feel I just have 1.5 years left, while I was supposed to do this work in 2 years. my cost constraints would increase. I would have to employ more people to this particular work. I have a huge time deadline with me on my shoulders, which I would probably not want. Something which was to happen in 2 years would now have to be done in 1.5 years. Similarly, by the if we go by the inflation rate, so in 6 months things would have become even more costlier for me. So something which costed me X would now cost me X plus at least 10%, going by the inflation rate which we have in our country right now, probably more than that. So it is important for a project manager to understand that there is no scope creep which is happening in his project. So at times in my organization, I've seen that clients has started on with a project, say a website development, and then they say in the middle, let's say the project is for 1 year, and they say after 6 months, boss, that we want this extra application to be added to our website. Now that is an extra cost. That is an extra cost for my organization, for my project. So when I started with my initial calculations, my project margin probably would be just 20%, and then if I add those applications on my project, I will have to deploy one more guy on this particular project, and then my project margin would go to 15%. Why should I take that cost as a project manager? So the project manager has to understand, and he has to identify the scope creep. Now, how should you avoid it? Now in that example of DLF, I don't think that there's much you can do, and you can't deal with the government agencies the way you probably would deal a private client. But in a normal scenario, how to avoid it? You would like to see that, do you really need that extra effort? So when a client tells you to add that additional application on your website, on his website, can you say no to it? Is that really required? Does client really wants it, or he's just asking you to do it just for the heck of it? So a project manager has to decide, or if this is a right call, and if it is a right call, I think it is a responsibility of the project manager to get probably another contract signed which talks about a different scope. So my scope initially was to just build a website, but then now client is asking me to add an additional application on it, which would probably bring down my margin to 15%, and then why should I do it? Why should a project manager do it? I have to report to my bosses as well. So these are the things which are important from a scope creep point of view. Any questions on this? Sure.
Hello sir, I'm Neha.
Yeah.
And it's just a doubt that just came into my mind. If a client has asked for something extra after the whole project has been planned, can't the project manager just tell the client, see, this is the extra cost and extra time that I have to have now?
Yeah.
After you.
So that is what I am saying. That is when a project manager has to take a call, whether, you may sit down. When a project manager has to take a call, if this is really important, is this going to cost something, or am I taking a hit on my margin? Why should I take it? Let me talk to the client. It's very professional. We are doing a business. We are not running a shop. Yeah. So we are doing business, and let's talk to the client and ask him what exactly do you want to do with this application, and identify if another contract related to it can be signed, and it would have a different scope altogether, and it would also give me some time to identify again my resources. If I have those resources with me, probably the kind of application they want us to build, probably I don't have those people on my team. So it gives me that extra edge, and it's always good to talk to the client regarding such scope creeps. Any?
So being a project manager, don't you keep this thing in margin? Like, don't you keep some resource margin with you, or you just set the deadline, just that deadline only, and you shorten it, and if you think that some scope creep can come up, so you can resolve it now if you have set your deadline before as it was.
Okay. So for a project which was to end in 6 months, at the initial stages, when you start a project, you identify a lot of things, right? You probably would like to prepare an estimate on what kind of cost you are going to bear. So you have a lot of things on your mind. You have an office space which is rented. You have people coming in your office जिनके लिए आपको salaries देनी है. Then you have to probably arrange for the cabs. You have to arrange for office stationery. There you have to arrange for 100 other things. So keeping in those things in mind, you are setting an approximate margin on that particular project. Now the client tells you that he wants the project to be delivered in 6 months, and going by the cost and revenue estimate, you are fine with 20% of margin. So that is what you do at the initial stages. But something which comes up in between, how can you plan that? And I'm not talking about only if client has a different requirement. I'm talking about there's a contingency plan. Yes, you're correct. So what if your guys leave? 2 of your guys leave. You have a team of 10. 2 leave. How you are going to compensate that? So that is the thing. Any more questions? Okay. So can I play a movie over here? Okay. Yeah. बहुत boring है यार. So I think and I'm very fascinated about this fact always. The most typical situations of project management or a leadership do come from real life scenarios, and especially if it is a war. So I'll show you a video from a movie called Battle of Foy. This battle happened at the German border in World War II. And then probably we'll discuss about the different aspects of project management, and if you guys have any questions on that.
Got about 1/8 of a mile of open field to cross before we get.
Can you hear it? I don't think so. It's fine.
Down here in the fort, it's vertical cover, so you gotta move quickly. I've set up 2 sections of light machine guns at either end here. They'll give you covering fire. They're a battalion coming from the east, led by I Company. That should cause distraction. D Company will be in reserve. We shouldn't lead them. The point is, you gotta move in there fast. Get in there before they can bring the mortars and artillery down on you. Clear? Clear. And lying on you. Get it done.
Let's stop at this. Did you see this guy's reaction when he was listening to his senior? He's not even sure about what the orders are. He's not even sure what exactly needs to be done here. He's just given a blank face. He just accepted what the senior has told him. He has not even asked, how am I going to do this? Do we have the right